Oh, hello. Welcome to another episode of CC Top Solutions. We find ourselves yet again in a breakdown situation with the Lincoln. It's just not having a very good month. Check this one out. Throttle issue on my drive home the other night. You know, I basically had this thing floored and it was like it was giving it no throttle. Turns out it's because it wasn't. Check it out. The pedal has rusted right off. So really, I can't hit the gas. You know, it needs to be bolted down to actually apply pressure to the accelerator. All this is really doing is motivating me to try and patch this floor sooner rather than later. I mean, you can see it's got some holes, but let's scrape it out and figure out something so that this car can be drivable again. And then in the coming weeks, we'll go ahead and replace the front brakes and replace that tire. Amazon hooked me up with a replacement tire, so got to install it. I've cleaned up the floor quite a bit with just the drill, or not a drill, the grinder with the wire brush. You can see where it's clean and where it's not so clean, but anyways, I got some Rust-Oleum primer. I'm going to put that on here to try and preserve what's left. And then something I found that I thought was pretty interesting. Take a look at this pedal design. So the pedal actually goes down through the floorboard, right? Look at this. You have a little ball joint or pivot joint or connecting point inside the floorboard. So the pedal is normally bolted in place kind of like this. And you know, because the floorboard's gone, it has nothing to bolt to. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a new piece of metal in, and what I'm going to do is try and make sure that I weld to all of our heavy duty portions of the floor. So this way structurally everything is still fairly sound. It's not going to look good. You know, I won't lie to you. I'm not what I would call a fabricator, but it will work. Just waiting for the primer to dry. You ought to smell this. Holy crap. Anyways, you can see how I kind of taped off some spots. Those are the areas that I'm going to drill some holes through the new floorboard and weld. I wanted to have nice clean connections there. And you'll notice that they line up with the under floorboard supports. That was intentional. Wasn't just random luck on those spots. And then the floorboard itself, I have it out here. I primed the bottom of it. And before I actually go to install it, I'm going to remove the primer from a couple of areas where I'm going to try and weld it, just to try and make sure it's a cleaner weld. Floor is completely prepped, and now we've prepped our new floorboard. Here we go, and we put some nice fancy rib nuts in for underneath, 1/4-20s. So the new floor will sit just like this. The gas pedal will bolt right here. I notched this out so that the linkage in the back of the pedal has some space. And then I'll be welding in these spots onto the frame cross members, and I'll probably hit a couple perimeter areas, and then I'll paint everything, and this will be like brand new. Yep, better than new. We decided to take a little journey to the bottom of the car so I could show you guys that throttle linkage. You see this? This is the throttle coming out of this front frame rail. And you see how the linkage goes up forward just above the exhaust there? There's one of those little ball socket joints that you would typically find on like a carburetor holding it together right here. So that is what had disconnected when I was working on the pedal inside. So I just came underneath, reconnected, and you can see how our undercarriage turned out. You can certainly tell that there's quite a bit of corrosion down here, and you can see the new metal that I welded in. And you can see the actual frame member supports, how it goes from here all the way up, and then it's here. And I've welded that new metal to the top of this frame member, and then the second one right here. Welded it to the top of both of those. So hopefully that should be structurally sound, and we can keep on trucking. Now, let's take a look at the interior. Here's a nice view of our new pedal and our new floorboard. This is, you know what, this is, I shouldn't say new, this is better than new. Here, we can just do this by hand, because these are nice brand new threaded inserts. I love these things. All right, it's in there pretty tight. Now the key is to take a look up at the carburetor and make sure that, first off, the carburetor is returning to 0 throttle, which you can tell from here it is. You look right there, you can tell that's 0 throttle. When I hit the gas, what I want to do is see that the throttle is indeed opening all the way. The best way we can do that is I'll go ahead and hit it by hand here, right? So all the way, basically has this just about even with that. So now let's check it using the pedal itself. Now when we did our 0 to 60s a few weeks ago, this throttle was not opening all the way. The secondaries weren't opening, so that's why it was so slow. Yeah, she opens all the way. Actually, maybe even more than all the way. Good, all right. So this car is ready to go for a spin. And then we'll get working on replacing our rear tire again and doing our front brakes. New back tires installed, everything is good. I don't know what was wrong with the old tire. I took a look at it, didn't see anything weird. Took it for a test drive. Now that I have the floorboard and the full gas pedal, this car flies so much faster. Now it has passing gear, never had that before either. So before I redo our 0 to 60, because the last time I did do the 0 to 60, I got 9.5 seconds, and that was basically with part throttle. Now, you know, the secondaries are engaging and I can feel it's faster, so I would expect at least 8.5 seconds, maybe even faster. But before I test it, the brakes, the front brakes, they've always pulled real bad to the right, and now I can actually hear grinding. So I think that the brake pads need to be replaced, and I think there's problems with the calipers too. So I'm just going to go ahead and replace the whole thing. Stay tuned if you're curious what they look like. Kelsey Hayes dual piston front calipers. We started to remove our brakes. What we did is we have a 9/16 to hold, 9/16 tubing wrench to hold this inner fitting. Here's our Kelsey Hayes dual piston caliper. And we have a 7/16 to grab our outer fitting. We grabbed it right like this, and we soaked it in penetrating oil, and then we banged on this while we held that. Banged on that using a little hammer. Just tap, 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 tap until it broke it free, and now it spins nice and easy, and we don't have to worry about having to replace any of our lines. So that should make this job about 1,000 times easier. So pro tip, never force any kind of brake line or tubing fitting. Never force those. They round off, they break, they damage the line. Go ahead and just get your wrenches on there and tap away at them with a hammer. Trying to give you guys a view here from behind. So you'll see these hex nuts, those are 7/8. Those are to actually disassemble your caliper. You do not have to remove those to pull the caliper. You have to pull these. These are 13/16. There's 2 of them, one up top, one at the bottom. And once those come out, the caliper should come right off. You got to make sure to disconnect your tube so the whole thing can just free float. But it's the same concept. You know, when you get on here, don't put a ton of force on it. Just get your wrench on it and then just tap away at it with a hammer, which is what I did. And now this is nice and loose. Here's our original caliper. Note this fitting, that needs to be transferred to the new one. Here's the clips that hold the pads in. You can see the pads are not wearing evenly. So, yep, this caliper definitely had issues. You can see it's very thin here and a little thicker here, and the passenger side's a lot worse. And here's our new one. Here's the clips that hold it in. Hold your pads in. So you undo these clips, stick your pads in, put the clips back in, they hold them in place. Put your new fitting over here. And aside from that, I think you should be good to go. You know, just flipping this over and taking a look to see, oh, we got our bleeder. Let's see if our new one has that. Oh, yep, yep. Yeah, so these appear to be nearly identical. Perfect. Should be a easy install. So far, everything's come apart incredibly simple, so I'm very pleased. These clips are held in by 4mm nuts. Allen, well, not nuts, socket head cap screws. Oh, it's come to my attention that people were curious, you know, when I was doing all the grinding and stuff to clean the wire brushing to clean the floor, how did I avoid breathing them in without a respirator? Well, pretty simple. Anytime I was grinding, I just held my breath. So we just take our caliper, our new pads, and we slide it over here. Now, normally you would take this opportunity to replace the rotor as well. Go ahead and put our bolts back in and tighten it up and we're good to go. But talk about a difference, right? Between the old pads and new pads. And we're also gonna have to bleed this once we have the whole system together. So the Rock Auto Kelsey Hayes remanufactured units are pretty nice. They really do seem to match the originals quite nicely. So here's our fasteners that we took out. These really weren't too bad, but they were rusty and beat up, and if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Anti-seize is our friend. I can't stand when somebody doesn't take the extra 5 seconds to put this stuff on, and then in 10 or 15 years, if I'm trying to take this apart, I can't because it's rusted in place. Pretty tight with this. Now let's get a longer 13/16 wrench on here and really get some torque on there. These are very important nuts or fasteners. We do not want them coming loose at any point. I remember years ago a coworker of mine, he did his own brakes. After he did that, he complained he was hearing some sort of rattling. Another coworker of mine took a look under his Jeep. Said, "Holy crap, dude, you're supposed to tighten these bolts." The whole caliper was just bouncing around. He's lucky they didn't lock up on the highway. All right, they're tight now. On a side note, have you guys ever had tiger's blood from Wawa? This stuff is awesome. Careful for the cold headaches though. Unfortunately on this side, I didn't get so lucky and this started to round off, even with the penetrating oil and my pound method. So whenever I have that issue, 9 out of 10 times I can use these Irwin Vice Grip brand lockjaw pliers and get on there and just muscle them free because the jaws on these things bite so hard. I mean, they're awesome. So that's what I'm gonna try and do. So for this to work, you really have to be bit down hard. No slipping, that's the key. If there's any slippage, you're gonna destroy your fitting for sure. All right, back to our trusty Irwin. Got it. Like I said, these Irwin lockjaw pliers, they're good for when fittings get real stuck like that. And even though that is rounded quite a bit, I think we'll be able to reuse it just fine. Well, it's not the best weather for this, but the Lincoln is running and driving great now. Full throttle, brakes are great, that rear tire is replaced, so all of our safety issues are squared away. I want to do another 0 to 60 run. The last one, I didn't have full throttle, so. Okay, here we go, 0 to 60. 3, 2, 1, go. Not as fast as I was hoping, 9 seconds. Ready, 3, 2, 1, go. Shifts in a second at about 60. Oh, that was a lot of fun. That one looks like it was 9.04 seconds. So, okay, this goes 0 to 60 in 9 seconds. Looks like we may have another perfect opportunity to go 0 to 60. Traction is an issue. 2 seconds. Slowing down when those tires slip. Well, looks like I'm gonna have to put a locker in this. Well, at the end of the day, the Lincoln is running great. It's only running a 9 seconds 0 to 60 when it should really be around 8.5. I think that's because I have the timing set at a max advance of 26 degrees. It's because when I first got out on the road, it was pinging, and that was my fix. At this point, maybe in the spring, I'll mess around with bringing some more timing back in and get some 0 to 60 runs, see how it is. But, oh, somebody wants to say hello. Hi, Maple. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and wrap this video up. Pretty soon we'll be bringing some Dodge Ramcharger videos back into the picture. I hope you guys enjoy those too. I had a lot of fun making this video. I hope you enjoy watching it. If I don't talk to you, have a great Thanksgiving. Bye.